Dream of the Red Chamber, Chapter 35.
The main character, Baoyu, he's sick.
Right.
But everything happening around his sickbed, it just reveals the Grandview Garden in these three deeply contrasting ways. We go from, the silent, poetic despair of Lin Dayu.
All the way to the loud, messy family drama of her cousins, the Sus.
Exactly. And then into the cold, calculated efficiency of the household manager, Wang Shifeng. It's all there.
Okay, so let's start where the emotional tension is, just at its absolute peak, with Lin Dayu. And the chapter drops us right into this really tense moment. She's watching Baochai leave. Right after Dayu, he's given her one of her famous verbal lashings.
The text uses the term keibo, which means to carve up. It's so sharp. But Dayu doesn't feel victorious. She just retreats.
Into this profound isolation.
Exactly, and it's so visual. She stands alone in what the text calls the flowered shade, the Huayin Zixia, and she's just watching the world go by. She sees this constant procession.
Like a royal court.
It is. It's Jia Mu, Wang Zhifeng, the three Chen sisters,
Right.
all these high-status visitors, and they're all heading straight to Baoyu's residence.
So she's literally on the outside looking in. She's watching this current of family concern and affection, and it's all flowing towards her rival and her cousin.
Yes. But the story doesn't just stay there with her physical position. It jumps straight into her head. And her self-pity, it becomes this intricate piece of literary criticism.
Which is just so typical of her.
It's the genius of the novel. She starts comparing her own life to Shuangwen from the West Chamber, a classical play that, every educated person at the time would have known intimately.
And Shuangwen was considered the classic ill-fated character.
Right, Mingbo. But Dayu thinks about it and concludes that even Shuangwen had a foundation. She had a mother and a younger brother.
So she's defining her own tragedy by what she lacks in comparison to other tragic figures.
Precisely. She decides her own fate is impossibly thin. It's a lower, more absolute grade of ill-fatedness because she lacks both.
Wow.
And the text gives us this devastating phrase, Shuangwu rodijuwu, no widowed mother, no younger brother. She sees herself as completely adrift, disconnected even from the tradition of literary tragedy.
It's an incredible way to show her isolation. So after all this, she finally heads back to her own place, the Jiaxiang residence. And that's where we get, I think, the most haunting moment.
The parrot scene.
The parrot scene.
Her home, the Shaxiang, is all cool bamboo shadows and moss. It's an environment built to reinforce her beautiful, sad isolation. But the parrot just shatters that piece.
It's like even in her own sanctuary, she has no privacy from her own sorrow.
The bird does something almost surreal. First, it just calls out for her maid, Xiren, quickly lift the curtain. A normal, memorized command.
Okay.
But then it lets out this long sigh, and the text describes it as having the exact sound and rhythm of Lin Dayu's characteristic sad sigh.
Wait, just think about that. Her grief is so constant, so routine, that her pet has learned the sound of her sadness.
It gets worse.
Of course it does.
The parrot then starts reciting her own deeply personal poem, The Burial of Flowers. Yes, specifically the line, "Who will bury me?" It takes her deepest, most private existential fear, that she'll die alone and unmourned, and turns it into a public performance in her own home. The physical world is literally talking back to her.
That is just remarkable literary architecture.
Yeah.
The setting, the pet, it all works to frame her as this isolated genius who's just being suffocated by her own inner world. Okay, so if Dayu retreats into this fragile poetic world, we have to understand the messy outer reality that makes it all possible. Let's jump to the Zhu family.
A completely different energy.
Totally. Baochai goes home and is just weeping to her mother, Su Yima, because she's so distraught about the trouble her chaotic brother, Su Pan, caused.
Right, and this isn't quiet melancholy. This is loud public anxiety about reputation.
Yeah.
And right on cue, Su Pan, the source of all disorder, he bursts in to give this highly theatrical, totally unconvincing apology.
What does that performance even look like? It sounds like he's just dodging.
Oh, completely. He's bowing left and right, claiming he was drunk, he came home late, he bumped into guests on the road.
Anything but I messed up.
Exactly. He's blaming the alcohol, the hour, the guests, anything but his own lack of control.
And Baochai, being the pragmatic one, she sees right through it.
Immediately. She cuts right to his motive. She accuses him of trying to drive them away so he can finally have his freedom, so his heart could be cleansed and they wouldn't nag him anymore.
But it's the mother, Shu Ma, who delivers the most devastating line of the whole scene, when he promises to change. Again.
Oh, the dragon line. It is just a masterful piece of characterization.
Tell us.
He swears he'll be a better man, and she just looks at him completely cynical and says, if you had that kind of resolve, the dragon would lay an egg.
Wow.
That one line is it's pure distilled disappointment. It tells you he's made this exact promise 100 times before. It's decades of parental resignation in one sharp cultural idiom.
And his response to this emotional failure?
He tries to fix it with things. Materialism. He immediately tries to distract them by saying Baochai's gold necklace needs regilding and offering her new clothes.
Because he can't repair trust. So he offers a physical upgrade.
You've got it. But Baochai doesn't want or need it. The necklace is already golden yellow. It's just a shallow gesture that shows how completely disconnected he is from genuine responsibility.
So we've gone from Daiyu's silent crisis to the Xu family's loud, materialistic one. But both of them are only possible because of this enormous infrastructure. Let's go back to the sick room.
Back to Baoyu. And this is where we see the third facet. The sheer, absurd bureaucracy of aristocratic life.
Right. So Baochai and her mother are visiting, and Baoyu makes a request for a dish. It sounds so simple, so pastoral.
The small lotus leaves and small lotus pod soup.
It sounds like something you just whip up in a flash.
Right.
But Wang Shifeng, or Feng Ji, she immediately signals that this is trouble.
She's the ultimate manager. Her reaction is everything. She says the request isn't high-ranking, it's not rare or fancy, but it is too much trouble.
And in a household this big, simple is often the most complicated thing you can ask for.
Because it means specialized, non-routine work. And the complexity hits them immediately when they start looking for the tools. The molds for the soup, they aren't in the main kitchen.
Okay.
They're not in the tea room either.
So where are they?
The hunt sends them deep into the bureaucracy. They're finally found with a very specific person, the supervisor of gold and silver utensils.
They have a person for that. A supervisor just for the fancy cutlery.
They do, and the description of these tools is just incredible.
Tell us about the molds.
They're magnificent and, frankly, ridiculous. They are silver, kept in a special box. There are 4 of them, and each one is over a foot long.
A foot long for a bowl of soup.
A foot long and an inch square. And inside each mold are 30 to 40 tiny, intricately carved designs. Chrysanthemums, plums, lotus pods.
That's the aha moment right there. This isn't just luxury. It is specialized bureaucracy for food art. They're not just cooking. They're using industrial-grade silver tools to make tiny, edible sculptures.
And Feng Ji explains why they were so hard to find. They were made the year before, just as a novelty. They're made of dough, scented with new lotus leaves. But she herself admits they were ultimately meaningless, which is why they were filed away with the precious silver.
The ultimate sign of wealth is having foot-long silver machinery for a food item that wasn't even popular. A passing craving mobilizes the entire gold and silver inventory. Okay, so the soup is a logistical nightmare. But this leads us to the final and maybe the most brilliant part of the chapter. Wang Shifeng's genius.
Her genius for management, finance, and reputation.
Right. Baoyu only needs 1 bowl of this wildly complicated soup, but Feng Ji immediately orders the kitchen to make 10-odd bowls.
And this is where we shift from physical logistics to social capital. Her rationale is brilliant and completely calculated.
She's thinking about the internal politics. Why would 1 bowl be dangerous?
Well, 1 bowl for the favorite, Baoyu, would exclude the most important people in the room. The matriarch, Jiamu, the guest of honor, Xu Yima, and his own mother. Feng Ji says it out loud. If they don't get any, it seems not good. So she uses his request as an excuse to make a batch for the entire family hierarchy. She's managing political risk and creating goodwill at the same time.
A very calculated display of generosity. But Jiamu, the elder, she's too smart for that.
She is. She laughs and calls Feng Ji a monkey for using the official account's money to make connections.
Basically accusing her of using the estate's money to make herself look good.
The classic accusation. You look generous, but the institution pays the bill.
But Feng Ji's countermove is so fast. It's what shows her financial brilliance.
It's lightning fast. She instantly replies that the extra expense, the ingredients for the extra bowls, will not come from the official funds. She'll pay for it herself. It will come from her own account.
Ah, so that's the masterstroke.
It's the ultimate strategic move. She knows the most expensive part is the overhead, the labor, fetching the silver molds, the kitchen time. That's already paid for by the house.
So she only has to pay for a little extra flour and chicken.
The marginal cost, exactly. She's banking massive social credit by leveraging the house's infrastructure and spending just a tiny fraction of her own money. She looks selfless, she wins credit with the family, and it costs her almost nothing. It's a masterclass.
GMO acknowledges Feng Xi's cleverness. She calls her zui guai, which is something like quick-witted or sharp, but she immediately puts a ceiling on that compliment.
She does. She notes that while Feng Ji is clever now, GMO herself was even more so in her youth.
It's the ultimate subtle reminder of where the true authority lies. You are good, but I was the originator of good.
It's a psychological triumph achieved entirely through dialogue. By establishing her own superior past wit, GMO ensures that Feng Ji's current brilliance is seen as just a continuation of her own legacy.
So it's not a disruptive new force.
Exactly. It's under her control.
And she uses this framework to critique others almost immediately. She contrasts the sharp-tongued Feng Ji with Baoyu's aunt, Shui Yima,
who she describes as being like a block of wood. The original is mu to see.
just because she doesn't speak much.
It's a direct link. Conversational ability, that quick strategic eloquence, is tied to social success within the family. GMO says that Shuima struggled to gain favor with her in-laws because she didn't know how to charm with her words.
So in a society where a woman's influence really depended on maneuvering through relationships, silence was a serious liability.
A huge liability.
That feels like a damning indictment of, virtue over vivacity. But Baoyu, who always champions the quiet, artistic soul, he intervenes here.
He does. He questions as those who don't speak much are automatically unloved. He's trying to push back.
Right, against the idea that social maneuvering is the only path to favor.
And Jiamu, despite her preference for the witty, is too astute to be trapped in a simple binary. She acknowledges that the silent ones have their own lovable qualities.
And that the two clever ones, like Feng Ji, can also overstep and be disliked.
It's a masterclass in balance. You have to possess both eloquence and measure.
Okay, so this brings us to where the politics of praise just turn explosive. Baoyu sees an opening. He tries to steer the conversation toward Lin Dayu.
His beloved. He clearly believes she embodies that perfect, quiet, poetic virtue. He's looking for the matriarch's endorsement.
And Jiamu just completely overrides him.
Completely. She interrupts his attempt to praise Dayu and delivers this surprising definitive statement. Of all the girls present, even her own 4 granddaughters, none are as good as Bao Chai.
She calls her Bao Tu. It is the highest possible public endorsement. It's basically crowning Bao Chai as the paragon of female virtue and conduct.
And the sources capture the fallout perfectly. Baoyu is completely taken aback. He was aiming for Dayu and got Bao Chai instead.
So what does Bao Chai do? The recipient of this massive, status-elevating compliment.
She doesn't preen. She maintains perfect, reserved modesty. She turns away immediately to speak to Xiren.
That's the subtlety of the balance Jiamu just taught them. You have to be worthy of the praise.
But you can't be seen actively seeking it or accepting it too eagerly. Bao Chai's action reinforces her image as the ideal, quiet complement to Feng Ji's loud competence.
Compliments are political acts.
And she navigates the politics perfectly.
It's a fascinating level of social discipline. But we can't talk about this scene without discussing the humor that instantly diffuses all of that tension.
Oh, absolutely. After all the intense maneuvering, Jimu teases Feng Ji about always being sure to prepare the best food for her.
And this is where Feng Ji's genius lies. She understands the power she's playing with. She steps right up to the line of challenging the matriarch.
And delivers her famous, self-deprecating joke. Our old ancestor only dislikes human flesh being sour. If she didn't, she would have eaten me already.
That line is incredible. It's such a brilliant example of using humor to manage power.
It is. The joke simultaneously acknowledges Jiamu's massive authority. She could figuratively, consume Feng Ji,
Right.
while reframing that power as a benign, almost funny personal preference.
And the reaction is key. Everyone bursts into hearty laughter. This isn't just a funny moment. It's a necessary social pressure release valve.
After all the intense positioning, the critiques, the endorsements, the subtle power displays, that joke just clears the air and allows the rigid social machine to keep functioning without resentment building up.
That sense of released tension is a perfect bridge into the next phase of the afternoon. The practical mechanics of the household, which are, anything but casual.
Right. Baoyu, still recovering in his room, feels comfortable enough to make a request, and this really illustrates the casual nature of demanding service across household divisions.
What's the request again?
He asks Bao Chai to have her maid, Yinger, make him some decorative knots, or luozi.
Which isn't a task that belongs to Bao Chai's direct household duties.
No, but because of the status dynamic and the network of favors, it's easily requested. It shows that specialized labor-like Yinger's superior knot-making skills is a resource that can be leveraged by the highly ranked.
It's a transaction. Baoyu leverages his status with Bao Chai, and Bao Chai leverages her control over her skilled maid.
But before the deal is even finalized, the ultimate authority, Jiamu, steps in.
Of course she does.
She swoops in to remind everyone who controls the labor pool. When Bao Chai agrees to send Yinger, Jiamu immediately offers Bao Chai any of her own idle maids if she needs help.
And that's not just generosity.
No, it's an active display of her total ownership over all household resources.
Yeah.
She is confirming that every single servant, every skill, and every minute of labor is ultimately hers to dispense.
This detail-oriented control extends directly to the meal preparation, which is just the definition of protocol and hierarchy in motion.
We see a detailed list of who attends, Tanshin and Shichun are there, and the notable absences.
And the absences are very telling. Yingchun is sick, which is a simple fact, but the note about Lin Dayu.
It's very significant. She is noted as routinely only eating 5 out of 10 meals. This small observation powerfully reinforces her delicate, often sickly temperament.
Which contrasts her fragility with Bao Chai's robustness, who Jiamu just praised.
Exactly.
And the service itself is intense. We see high-ranking women Wang Furen and Li Gongkai standing and actively serving the matriarch.
It underscores a crucial point. Rank only takes you so far. Even the highest status figures must humble themselves before the matriarch.
And the seating chart is basically a map of social power.
A literal map. Jiamu and Shumima sit in the upper honored positions. Below them are the young unmarried ladies, Xu Baochai and Xi Yingyun. They're ranked above the standing servers, but far below the core matriarchs. It's a visual representation of the whole social structure.
And in this rigid structure, we see Feng Ji, the ultimate manager, controlling the flow, the cutlery, the seating.
But her management also extends to these personal touches, like ensuring Baoyu, who is in his separate sick room, receives special attention. She makes sure he has clean utensils specially prepared for him.
Why is that detail so important?
Because it shows that perfect service isn't just about protocol. It's anticipating needs and personalizing care. Feng Ji isn't just following the rule book. She is writing it in real time. That's how you maintain power.
That meticulous attention to detail sets the stage for the most intense, emotionally demanding interaction of the chapter.
The delivery of the lotus leaf soup, or hiyatang.
Wang Furen orders Yu Chuan, the sister of Ju Chuan, to deliver the soup to Baoyu.
And here we just have to pause to remember the immense emotional history. The listener needs to understand the weight Yu Chuan is carrying.
Right, because her sister, Jinjian, was a maid who suffered a tragic death earlier in the novel.
A death following a confrontation that implicated both Baoyu and Wang Furen. So Yu Chuan, her surviving sister, is now forced by duty to serve the man she holds responsible for her family's loss. The tension is just unbearable.
And the initial interaction shows her trying desperately to cling to protocol.
She avoids carrying the soup tray herself, insisting a steward, a posy, carry the heavy pangi right up to the room. She's trying to maintain a professional distance.
But that protocol just cracks the moment she sees Baoyu.
When he looks at her, the sources say he is instantly overcome with grief and shame, Kenkuki thinking of Jinchuan. He is genuinely remorseful.
But Yu Chuan is consumed by rage.
Her professionalism is skin deep. She refuses to make eye contact. Her answers are minimal and angry. She only manages a single resentful good when Baoyu asks about her mother.
So she's outwardly performing her duty, but internally she's just screaming defiance and pain at him.
You have this intense, silent drama unfolding in the confined space of a sick room. And Baoyu, perceptive as always, he immediately realizes he can't win this battle in front of witnesses.
So he strategically dismisses everyone else,
leaving himself alone with the grieving and raged Yu Chuan.
This is where his true tactical genius, or maybe manipulation, comes out. He begins this campaign of relentless, persistent, sweet-talking.
Tianzumishi, and humble persistence. He is relentlessly gentle, enduring her distress. He even uses feigned vulnerability, claiming he's too weak to stand, threatening to get out of bed painfully just to prompt her to give him the soup.
It's a theatrical performance. It's designed to wear down her defenses, not through argument, but through sheer emotional pressure and forced intimacy.
He's forcing her to acknowledge his pain, and in doing so, acknowledge him.
And does this persistent performance finally break through her rage? Or is she just exhausted?
It breaks through, but not gently. Yuchuan finally tells him to lie down and mutters that his suffering, his sickness, is current retribution, Easy and Shixin and Bao, for the sins he committed against her sister.
Wow. So she finally voices the moral judgment she's been carrying.
She does. But crucially, after that moment of painful honesty, she lets out a small, involuntary laugh. The text says, 息的一声又少了. That is the moment of thaw.
The laugh is the turning point, even though the words were devastating. It's the release. The acknowledgement that she can still engage with him as a human being, not just a source of pain.
And that leads to the final, masterful trick, the soup trick.
Right. He demands she taste the soup, claiming it's terrible and has no flavor.
It is purely a challenge designed to provoke an emotional, non-servant response.
And her reaction is to angrily take a sip, not as a sign of affection, but to prove him wrong. She, the dedicated server, has to defend the quality of the dish.
He's trapped her. Baoyu immediately laughs and says, now it's delicious, because she has tasted it. She has shared the moment, crossing the social boundary. He has successfully tricked her into intimacy.
Bridging that immense emotional and hierarchical gap between them through a theatrical game.
And the reconciliation is complete not when she smiles, but when Yuchuan, understanding the full depth of the deception, only responds by playfully refusing to give him the bowl back.
She's no longer paralyzed by rage and grief. She's engaging in a gentle power struggle over utensil. The game worked. Meanwhile,
there's a visit, and it immediately goes wrong.
Right. The whole thing kicks off with the arrival of two popo, these are, old women, servants from the household of a man named Fuxi.
And Fuxi isn't just anybody, right? He's a protege of Baoyu's father.
He is, a Door student. He basically relies entirely on the GF family's prestige for his status. So this visit, it's not casual. It's a kind of required diplomatic check-in.
Now, Baoyu is famously, well, he can be a bit of a snob. He hates what the book calls stupid boys and silly girls. He usually wouldn't give people like this the time of day. So why does he let these two women in?
It all comes down to what the sources call his sincere respect. He's heard about Fuxi's sister, Fu Qifeng.
The one he's never even met.
Exactly. He's just heard that she's this incredible beauty and talent, Qiang Lu Zhu. And he respects her so much, just the idea of her, that he's afraid that he slights her servants, he's slighting her. And he just can't bear that thought.
Okay, hold on. If Baoyu hates all the social games and the rigid rules of high society, isn't worrying about offending someone's servants the ultimate high-level social game?
That is a really sharp question. And the difference is the motive. For Baoyu, it's never about power. It's always about sentiment. He's not making a political calculation. He's making an emotional one. He's trying to protect the dignity of a person he sees as having this true spiritual elegance.
And Fu Qifeng's situation is just this perfect little piece of social commentary. She's 23, she's not married, and her brother is basically using her as a bargaining chip to climb the social ladder.
Correct. Her brother is what they call Baofa newly rich. And he's holding out, trying to marry her off to a really noble family. But here's the brutal part, the social barrier.
They won't have her.
They reject her. Not because of who she is, but because of her family's poverty and shallow roots. The original text says Konswan and Genji Kwanbo. She's caught in this horrible trap.
Too good for a lesser match, but not well-born enough for a great one.
Exactly. The sources just lay it bare. You can't just buy your way into the absolute top tier of the aristocracy. It doesn't work that way.
And it's right at this moment, while he's distracted by all of this, that the soup incident happens.
Yes. He reaches for this bowl of lotus leaf soup, the Lianye gang, knocks it right over, scalds his own hand.
It's just this quick, messy little accident, but his reaction, you said this is maybe the key to his entire character.
I think it is. His immediate, almost reflexive thought isn't about himself. He's the one who's hurt. But he turns to his maid, Yuchuan, and asks, "Were you scalded? Does it hurt?"
And while his own hand is burned.
Right. So the physical accident isn't really the point. The point is his moral reflex. Everyone else laughs because, it's so absurd. But his frame thought is for someone else's comfort. That's just pure Baoyu.
And that one detail, that empathy, becomes the main piece of evidence used against him.
Immediately. As soon as those two popos are outside, they start gossiping. And we get this raw, unfiltered, and deeply critical outside view of the Jia family heir.
And their judgment is just brutal.
It's scathing. They basically decide he's good-looking on the outside but foolish on the inside.
Right.
哇，相好，里图糊涂. He looks the part, but he's useless. Their final word is that he has a silly nature. Daiki. Daiki. That word silly, foolish, even demented, it's so important. And the crazy thing is, all their evidence for his foolishness is the exact behavior we just identified as, radical empathy.
Precisely. Let's break down their points. The first one, obviously, is the soup incident. Caring more about someone else's pain than his own.
Okay, what's the second?
They remember seeing him standing in the pouring rain, soaked like a water chicken, but he's busy yelling at everyone else to get out of the rain and take cover. It's a complete lack of self-preservation.
And the third point. This one feels even more personal. It's about his inner life, which they find terrifying. They say he's always talking to the world, crying to himself, laughing to himself, talking to swallows, fish, the moon, the stars. They call it Chongsa Duantan, sighing and groaning. To them, this is completely unhinged for a young nobleman.
He should be studying economics or something.
Exactly. And then comes the critique of his masculinity, which is probably the most damning in their eyes. He lacks manly firmness, gangsing.
Rare.
He tolerates the tempers of the maidservants, the Maya too. In their world, a man who doesn't enforce strict discipline over his household is seen as weak. It's a failure of character, a failure of management.
Wow. Okay, and the last point.
His completely bizarre sense of value. He'll treasure some tiny worthless thing, like a single piece of thread, but then he'll turn around and recklessly destroy an object worth thousands of gold. They just see him as frivolous and financially irresponsible.
So when you put it all together,
it's a perfect storm. He is failing every single test society has for a noble son. They want discipline, self-interest, financial sense, and firmness. He gives them empathy, aestheticism, and a total indifference to wealth. To these practical old women, that's not just a personality quirk. It's a dangerous idiocy that signals the ruin of the Jia family's future.
it's incredible. If he were talking to the fish and stars today, people would call him a poet or an artist, not demented.
That's the profound pressure he's under. And that harsh judgment is probably why the next scene feels like such a necessary retreat for him. He pulls back from that outside world and goes somewhere he can control things based on his own values.
The domestic sphere.
The domestic sphere. He gets into this conversation with Yenger, Golden Oriole, about tying decorative knots or luozi for things like sweat towels and sachets. And what follows is this amazing little masterclass in traditional Chinese aesthetics.
Right, because it's not just, let's pick a pretty color. There are rules.
Oh, there are serious rules. This dialogue shows that these domestic arts were highly technical skills. He suggests a great red for a towel, and Yinger immediately lays down rule number 1. For a color that strong, you have to use black or peacock blue shinking thread to press down the color.
Press it down. So it's not about matching. It's about, balancing it.
It's about controlling the visual weight. So the red looks dignified, not gaudy. It's all about meaning. Then she gives some other options. For what she calls a sultry charm, a zhaoyan, she pairs a soft pine flower yellow with peach blossom red.
That sounds beautiful. It evokes a completely different feeling.
A delicate warmth, yeah. And her personal favorite is even more subtle. Onion green and willow yellow. It just shows they're having this really sophisticated conversation about the emotional power of color.
And then she just lists off all these knot patterns.
An incredible list. Yizu Xiang, the incense stick. Keoshin Dang, lamp facing heaven. Xiang Yang Kuai, the elephant eye block. Lian Huan, linked rings. These are not just knots, they're geometric sculptures with deep symbolism.
And Baoyu chooses the Quanzhen Meihua, the gathered heart plum blossom. It's like this whole aesthetic world is his refuge from the judgment of the popo.
It is. But that refuge is immediately interrupted by a different kind of calculation. Bao Chai arrives. But just before she does, Yinger gives this fierce defense of her mistress.
What does she say?
She says Bao Chai has advantages no one else in the world possesses, and that her famous beauty is actually secondary to her inner character.
That's quite a statement. And then Bao Chai comes in and immediately offers a solution for the knot, for Baoyu's most important possession, his spiritual jade.
And this is a test of taste, of resources, of strategy, and Bao Chai just aces it. She waves away all the obvious choices, mixed colors, red, yellow, black. She says they're all flawed, too vulgar for something so sacred.
So what's her solution?
Her solution is brilliant because it shows her practicality, her taste, and her family's wealth all at once. She says to twist gold thread with black bead, thread high susion, gold thread. Baoyu immediately says it's truly beautiful. The gold is the proof of her wealth, but the black grounds it, makes it dignified. It's a perfect symbol of Bao Chai herself. Practical, luxurious, resourceful, and with impeccable taste.
Okay, so just as this is wrapping up, we get one last piece of domestic intrigue. It feels small, but it signals a huge power shift in the house.
A quiet political earthquake is what it is. Xiren, Baoyu's head maid, comes back.
And what's happened?
She says that Madame Wang, Baoyu's mother, sent 2 bowls of food directly to her. And the key details are, 1, the food was specifically for Xiren by name, and 2, she was told explicitly not to go and thank Madame Wang.
But wait, making a maid a sort of quasi-concubine before Baoyu's even married? That's a huge social risk. Why would Madame Wang do that? Why would she risk insulting a potential wife like Dayu or Baochai?
It's strategic insurance. Madame Wang is making sure that no matter who Baoyu ends up marrying, there's already a loyal, trusted person firmly in place in his private chambers. The protocol is so weird because it's meant to signal her undeniable authority. She's saying this maid is now part of the family structure and she's too important to perform the normal rituals of a servant.
And Xiren is embarrassed by this. She knows what it means.
Deeply. But it's Baochai who confirms it. She just smiles and delivers this killer line of foreshadowing.
What does she say?
She looks at Xiren and says, "There will be even more embarrassing things for you tomorrow."
Wow.
Yeah. Baochai, the strategist, sees the move for exactly what it is. Madame Wang is grooming Xiren, securing her own power in the household's future. It's a completely practical move that's the total opposite of Baoyu's sensitive nature.